Day 176, June 25th, Christian Liberty, Conviction, and Love 2, 1 Corinthians 8 verse 1. Knowledge puffeth up, but love edifieth. 1 Corinthians 8 verse 1. In the modern church, much needless division has been caused by differences in conviction mixed with a lack of love. One of the most prominent examples is the common disagreement concerning the celebration of traditionally pagan holidays such as Easter or Christmas. To many Christians who understand the roots of these holidays and see their connection to idolatry, joining in celebration is absolutely out of the question. Some Christians, and seeing other believers who do celebrate these holidays, are repulsed by what they see as either flagrant idolatry or the endorsement of evil. As a result, conflicts often arise, and much discord can result. Today's discussion takes us right to the heart of these conflicts, and provides us with the spiritual understanding which we will need in order to remain faithful to the truth and hopefully keep the peace. When it comes to Christians and their involvement in traditionally pagan holidays such as Christmas or Easter, we are given instruction, by general principles, in this discussion of food offered to idols. This is because, just as an idol, in itself, is nothing, and just as food offered to idols is no different from other food, even so, things like Easter egg hunts and gift-giving at Christmas are not intrinsically sinful. It is the intent of their use which makes for sinful practices. Thus, the spiritual principles which apply to food offered to idols also apply to these modern areas of disagreement. From Scripture, we know that the Christian was forbidden from offering sacrifices to idols, 1 Corinthians 10 verses 20 to 21, but not from eating food which had been offered to idols, 1 Corinthians 10 verse 27. When we apply this to our modern parallel conflict, we can conclude that Christians are forbidden from celebrating the actual pagan holidays of Christmas and Easter as pagans would have celebrated them. But they are not forbidden from using and partaking of things which may have been used in those holidays, Easter eggs, Christmas trees, etc., this so long as all is unto the Lord, Romans 14 verse 6. This may not be enough to convince some, so we can resolve the matter even more clearly by going to the very core of the issue: idolatry. The reason that many Christians refuse to have an involvement in these holidays is because they see them as idolatry. But, when we consider what the Bible reveals about idolatry, we soon find that holidays like Easter and Christmas may be the least of our worries. Consider that, spiritually speaking, an idol is anything that you idolize. In our modern day, people are worshiping their cars, houses, and possessions just as much, if not more, than the ancient pagans worshipped their carved idols. The Bible makes no distinction between the idolatrous pagan festivals which overtly worshipped physical idols and the more subtle idols of our day. With this in mind, we can understand that we are literally surrounded by idols. Shopping malls are temples devoted to the gods of materialism, sports stadiums to the gods of sports, fitness centers to the gods of body worship, and televisions to the gods of entertainment and idolatry of all kinds. Spiritually speaking, there is no difference between these modern idols and the literal idols of yesteryear. Just as the pagans sacrificed to their idols in ancient times, so all sinners continue such sacrifices, albeit in a different form, in the modern day. The pagans served their idols by offering animal sacrifices, but all sinners serve their idols by sacrificing themselves and what they have to their idols: time, affection, money, etc. If we take a strict position on abstaining from holidays like Easter or Christmas, and things which are used by idolaters, Easter eggs, Christmas trees, etc., we would also have to abstain from all of the implements and instruments of modern idolatry: television, weight machines, shopping malls, etc. Pretty much everything can be twisted into an implement of idolatry. But there is no need for all of this abstinence save abstaining from idolatry itself, for we may use such things so long as we are using them unto the Lord. As Scripture tells us, unto the pure all things are pure, Titus 1 verse 15. Obviously, this isn't license to sin, but a truth about Christian liberty which frees us from endless legalism. Now we must turn our attention from objects to activities. There are many sinful actions which are intrinsically evil. We know this because they are prohibited throughout Scripture. For example, practicing witchcraft is an intrinsically evil act. If we participate in witchcraft, we are directly complicit in evil, and even if we do not actively participate, but only benefit from it or take pleasure in it, we are indirectly complicit. Romans 1 verse 32. Thus, even enjoying a television show about magic and witchcraft constitutes indirect complicity in evil. Aside from acts which are intrinsically evil, there are also many activities which are conventionally evil. For example, there is nothing intrinsically evil about a word, because a word is just a sound. However, when a culture has assigned a filthy meaning to a sound, and that meaning is shared across an entire culture, that sound becomes conventionally evil. We know that participating in anything which is conventionally evil is direct complicity, otherwise Scripture would not instruct us to put off filthy communication out of your mouth. Colossians 3 verse 8, filthy words are not intrinsically evil, but conventionally evil. Conventional meanings are not only attached to words, but also to art, music, and many activities. There are certain symbols, images, and bodily gestures which the culture has assigned an evil meaning to. To knowingly use these conventions is direct complicity in evil. Aside from conventional evil, there are also things which are associatively evil. Halloween is a perfect example of this. While the customs surrounding the celebration of Halloween are manifold, there is no doubt that, even in the modern culture where much of its pagan origins are unknown, it is extensively associated with the evil of witchcraft, demons, violence, murder, horror, and death, not to mention sensuality, immodesty, and ungodly partying. Consequently, to celebrate Halloween is direct complicity in evil, and to benefit from or take pleasure in it is indirect complicity. The last matter we must address is unavoidable complicity. Because we live in a fallen world, we cannot help but be unintentionally complicit in evil. For example, we are commanded by God to pay taxes to government, Romans 13, and in some cases, the government will use our tax money to do evil. In some situations, we may be forced to send our children to a school in which teachers will attempt to indoctrinate them with ungodly ideas. Very often, the people who we purchase goods from will take the profits and use them for evil. Sometimes, even our charitable giving is turned to evil ends without us knowing it. If we served in the military, we may find that we have inadvertently taken part in some evil act. The list of unavoidable and unintentional complicity is virtually endless. What are we to make of such complicity? Are we to keep lists of people and organizations that do evil and boycott them all? Are we to refuse to help anyone in order to avoid supporting evil? According to Scripture, we must in all things avoid direct and indirect complicity in evil, but to avoid all unintentional complicity would require us to be taken out of the world. We must always do good, and commit due diligence to avoiding complicity, but after this, we must still live and participate in society as law-abiding citizens, and therefore, must not be excessively scrutinous in identifying every form of protracted complicity which may be the fourth or fifth consequence from our action. Admittedly, these issues of conscience can quickly become very complicated, and we cannot expect that every Christian is going to have the same understanding or conviction. Regardless of what conviction we arrive at, we need to acknowledge that another truly saved Christian may come to another conclusion. As we have learned, it is crucial for us to be concerned with the convictions of other Christians and to respect them. We can share scriptural truths with them to help them grow in their understanding of Christian liberty, but we cannot force our own convictions upon them. Just as the stronger believer, the one who has liberty, can be puffed up with pride, so also can the weaker believer who lacks liberty. Notice, in the 14th chapter of Romans, how the weaker believer is commanded not to judge the brother who has liberty. Point 1 believeth that he may eat all things, another, who is weak, eateth herbs. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for God hath received him. Romans 14 verses 2-3. If we cannot arrive at an agreement in our convictions, the next step we must take is to agree to commit the matter to the judgment of the Lord. Paul writes, "Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind." Romans 14 verse 5, obviously, both sides of the issue believe that they are in obedience to God. Therefore, let each side be convinced in their own mind and commit all judgment to God. Accordingly, Paul writes, "Why dost thou judge thy brother? Or why dost thou set it not thy brother? For we shall all stand before the judgment seat of Christ." Romans 14 verse 10, if we cannot come to an agreement on an issue, we must love one another by refusing to pass judgment on our fellow believers.